JT's back on the program. Como vai, amigo?
Tudo bem, meu irmão.
Tudo beleza. Good to have you back in the States. You were in Brazil last time we were chatting. You were back home in Sao Paulo. So the comforts of the United States are back. And hey, BYU's been crushing it on the recruiting trail. What have you made of some of the most recent commitments for the Cougars?
You know, I'm shocked to tell you, but a good shocked. You know what I mean? Never in my wildest dreams. And I think, Jerome, because you follow other sports and you also follow soccer and you understand European sports, I don't think the coin has dropped of what the magnitude is of having a lottery pick prospect. Because that's what, I don't know if you can say the name, I can't. I'm not related to anything. I actually donate, so I guess I'm paying for all of this right now in a way. But Yegor choosing BYU to come to Provo, leaving Real Madrid. I don't think the magnitude of that has still sunk in with everybody. It sure hasn't with me because, you know, growing up in Brazil, spending my professional career in Europe, to have the feedback, you know, of what Real Madrid stands for, who they are, what they have become, to have somebody that is, you know, in waiting to be a rotation player on their senior level team that just went to the EuroLeague, you know, that just steamrolled Barcelona for the Spanish title, to have that kind of level of talent choose to go to BYU. And listen, I get it, NIL, money, all of that, but still, to choose to trust Kevin Young instead of trusting the people of Real Madrid over trusting those people, I'm still amazed and shocked that this has happened with good old Provo from, you know, the LDS church, you know, on the Rocky Mountains of the West. To me, I'm still in shock.
It's incredible. And BYU hasn't signed too many guys like him. I mean, you could argue that Sean Bradley is the greatest signing in BYU history. This dude's the #2 pick after not playing for 2 years after his mission. Like, I would say Sean's #1. But it's up there. Then yesterday, BYU gets a transfer from Rutgers, who is filling that defensive wing defender position that BYU has said that they wanted to seek. A guy that's going to be about 19 months off an ACL, should be healthy. Someone compared him to Andrew Wiggins to me, when healthy, especially on the defensive end. What do you think of that commitment?
You know, and again, I know you can't say his name. I certainly can. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Mawagmag. My favorite thing about him is you look at all of his stats, and I was taking a look yesterday. He has increased his minutes per game, his usage, his points, his role. I mean, this is a guy that next year should average close to like a 12-point per game, 5 or 6 rebounds a game, if not more. And so to have that type of player come to BYU, you know, I'm a big fan of Brody Kozlowski. I've shared that with you guys. I've been high on him even by the time he was taking his visit to BYU, and even when he committed to USC, I always thought there was a big miss on BYU. Thankfully, Kevin Young, you know, was able to correct that path. But I think that between, you know, Mawat and Brody, he is going to give Brody the ability to kind of grow into the role. Now, I've always compared Brody to myself because, you know, tall, big, strong guy,
handsome,
can shoot the three. Hey, you said it, not me. All right. So now you, my mom, and my wife have something in common. So, but the one thing that I will say is it allows Brody to grow organically. You don't have to throw him into the fire. He doesn't have to take responsibilities right away, right? He is going to have Mawat. You know, Yegor can also go ahead and play some of the 4 on certain moments. Yegor is more of a 1-2, right? But again, he's so versatile that you can throw him on any position except the 5 just because his frame is not big yet. And so, but I think this guy, and I think we have 1 or 2 more scholarships left. It's just an incredible thing. What Kevin Young has accomplished. You know, I used to think that getting somebody that was the top assistant coach at the NBA level, you know, to convince that dude to drop out of the highest level of basketball in the world to come to BYU, I used to think that was the epitome of everything. But then to get somebody like Yegor and then to convince all of these key pieces, and then to have recruits. I don't know if you're going to talk about this again. I certainly can. To have the #1 prospect and recruit in the country for 2025 on campus today and tomorrow. I mean, the things that Kevin Young are doing are just mind blowing. And wow, certainly it's incredible what has accomplished the last 5-6 weeks.
It truly is. And it brings a massive smile to my face because I cannot wait for basketball season, which is wild. This has been the offseason of hoops, man. Men's basketball has dominated this offseason. It's been wild. Okay, given what you just said about Brody, BYU certainly needs to go and get a power forward, maybe even two. That's kind of the missing position, it feels like. Do you agree with that assessment? Because right now, if we started the season, I think Brody Kozlowski would be the starting four if the season started today.
Yes and no. Not that I'm saying no because I'm disagreeing with you. I would hope that he wouldn't be the starter, right? Having been in that position where you are a highly touted recruit coming out of high school, all of the hype, my senior year, I led the state of Nevada in points and rebounds. And Brody very much has dominated high school hoops. But it is a different gear that you have, but you have to learn to use it. And it's not a simple light switch. And so understanding the level that BYU, that Big 12 basketball requires, I would hope that Brody would be the backup. Now, I was extremely lucky because I played behind a player of the year, Keena Young, right? We're not going to have that type of level here, but I also think Brody is much better than I ever was. And so from that perspective, can Mawot play a little bit of the four and give Brody a little bit of that, hey, 10, 15 minutes a game burner so he gets his feet wet? I don't know. If you bring another four-man that is legit a four-man that will play, 5, 10, 15 minutes, maybe 20, 25 minutes a game, how do you intertwine Mawot with that? I think those are great problems to have. Right. The one thing that, if anything, that last season has shown us is that you need to have a 9-10 player rotation for you to be able to be successful. Look at Foos. I'm very high on Foos. I think Foos is a dominant force. I was completely wrong. I thought he was going to struggle in the Big 12. But, Jeremy, you follow the team just as close as I do, if not more. Foos was never 100% healthy, except for spurs of the season. Take the game against West Virginia. Foos dominated West Virginia on the road, but he could never replicate that because he didn't have the ability, the time to rest, and so on. So I think having a 10-man rotation is absolutely important for you to be able to be successful. And so adding another piece, to your point, I think it's very important. I think it's key for our success. And, knowing Kevin Young from his NBA experience, going 8, 9, 10 men deep on a rotation as you're in the middle of the regular season, I wouldn't be surprised if he's more successful at that than BYU has been in the past.
I agree with you. And BYU was pretty deep last year. They were going about 10 deep. And they've got 2 scholarships left. And I think BYU feels pretty good about most of the roster. I'm interested to see the competition during the summer of who emerges as kind of the initial starters. But it's really exciting because there's a lot of talent on this team. You've been involved with some workouts with some players during the non-live period. How's it going, and who are you working out with?
Yeah, I think it's no secret I'm extremely close to Trev and Nell. Trev and I go back from, even before COVID, which feels like it was a century ago. But, and we've always been close. And he came, we've talked and decided to do, some summer workouts, and that's what we've been doing. It's been fun, right? Brody has joined us. Kristen and I went to BYU together because I've been such a fan of her, of him. We communicated, and he is working out with us as well. Trey has joined us. Jackson Robinson joined us a few times, but I guess, that he's also, he who shall not be named moving forward. And so, and then also Dallin and Trey. Richie Saunders is back. He was working out with his dad, and he was there as well. And so, obviously, they're going to start, a little bit more official things this week. And so we're probably only going to do a couple of times a week now. It's more of can we duplicate about an hour and 15 minutes that I'm there with them? Can we do 5-6 drills and do it at game speed, doing things like back pedal threes and coming off and catch and shoot and doing a dribble, right? And hey, what are some of the things that you want to work on, right? You know, and I've shared this before with Trevin. Trevin was the best shooter in the country for about 3/5 of the season, right? What can we do to make sure that he is the best shooter of the country for the whole year? And I don't think necessarily he's working on his shooting. And he and I talk about this all the time. And I think I posted on social media, you know, make them call a timeout. So it's all mental things. What can you do to make sure that you knock down 2, 3, 4, 5 threes in a row by sprinting to the corner, by crossing, you know, between baseline to baseline, doing things to trick your body to get tired while you also having to make sure that you make the shot, right? And so those are things that there were two things why I lasted as long as I did in my career. One was because, you know, my basketball IQ and understanding and reading and know how to make the right play most of the time. And the other one was my jump shot, right? It's definitely not because of my explosiveness or my athleticism. I always joke around that I wasn't a professional athlete. I was a professional basketball player. And, you know, because of that, I learned a lot. And, you know, I'm passing on to Trevin and, you know, talking with Dallin about a few things about his left hand and the timing of his shooting and that sort of thing. And then with Brody is everything, all of the knowledge that I have, you know, from somebody that was in that position, that was a highly touted recruit that came in, you know, we haven't had a freshman of the year since I won the award. And so, but what can we do? What can I pass it on to him so he can create his own story, his own narrative by learning just from osmosis instead of learning by making mistakes? And so it's been a blast. I love the access that I have. You know, obviously I've always been around the program, but it's been fun to see these guys put in the work and be a part of that as well.
That's awesome, and these guys are working hard. And as you mentioned, today is the day that they report and start practicing. I don't believe all the players are there quite yet. A couple have to be announced, as mentioned, as we talked about. One from Russia, one from Rutgers, and we'll see what this lineup looks like. JT, we appreciate the time, and thanks for joining the program as always.
Hey, I appreciate you and I need to take Spence to lunch and show him what, you know, really Brazilian meals look like.
Absolutely.
And, it is overdue. And so I appreciate you guys having me, and always and forever go Cougs.
JT.